Well, we started the programme with news of the troubles affecting Russia, but that isn't the only emerging economy, of course, facing difficulties at the moment. The plunging price of oil is affecting the fortunes of a number of economies which had been the darlings of the investment world. Anders Heed is head of emerging markets at professional services giant BDO. It's his job to advise clients where to make large-scale investments, so that's what we want to hear. With me now is indeed Anders, who's Chief Executive of EMEA and Head of Emerging Markets at BDO. Anders, welcome to the programme. So clearly we saw the emergence of the BRIC countries, you know, the Brazils, Russias, Indias, China, in some part, and India is probably separate from this, because of the price of commodities going up, and that reflected quite simply demand. And we're now seeing a reversal of that trend. It's not just oil.
No, it goes beyond in many of the commodities like coal, iron, etc. But what's interesting is we are also seeing markets, emerging markets that are not commodity-driven economies, so to say, that has a manufacturing base, that has a large domestic demand. And they're actually seeing some interesting opportunities these days.
Such as, for example?
Well, you know, the term mint has been circulating.
Mint? Now, what does that stand for?
Exactly. Mexico, Indonesia, Nigeria, and Turkey is one of those terms. But I would say Turkey as an interesting market, which is not natural resource based, but it actually has a pretty substantial manufacturing base, and that's the base of their economy.
In some cases, in those countries, you'd have to have a strong stomach for political troubles, wouldn't you?
Indeed, and you have to have the long view and be able to manage risks, that's for sure.
So, you're looking, the profile broadly, just to repeat, is somewhere which has increasing domestic demand. So we used to look at it in terms of China and I suppose to some extent India, where they were exporting a lot and they found markets outside. Now you want to know that they have a growing middle class. How do you measure that?
Well, it's interesting to see how the statistics come out, but also where do you see that the demand for luxury goods, the demand for cars, those things is really opening up the market, right?
Do you look at the standard figures that we look at, like GDP and so on, or do you consider those by the by and irrelevant?
They're kind of historic. You know, you need to be in the market, you need to be close there, you need to have a more granular view. A GDP is a pretty, well, generic.
Historic, yes.
That and pretty generic. So you need to look into the segments in the market. And I think, you know, for example, we all talk about Greece, but you can still actually do pretty good business in Greece today.
I bet you. So you tend to, do you think that you tend to look more at sectors and have this, as you say, granular approach than you might have done 5 years ago, where the BRIC countries were simply fashionable and everybody was investing? Or have you always taken a more targeted approach?
You have to have a more granular view, because otherwise you can't substantiate the business case that you always have to put together, right? And so you need to understand what's the local circumstances and local opportunities, local regulation, and how that whole picture. So going, so to say, flying by macro numbers is a bit difficult.
But I bet a lot of your clients are saying to you, look, where do we invest? The gloss has gone off China, and the Eurozone is not doing too well. The US might get sucked into that, and the gloss has gone off emerging markets.
Well, let's hope that the Eurozone comes back, right, with this quantitative easing, so that at least we will see some opportunities nearby. But there are still opportunities in the emerging markets, I should say.
Thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome.